Now move on to our next agenda item, which is another fireside chat, which is about the rise of the Bionic Underwriter. John, what is a Bionic Underwriter? Yes, me too. Tech and tools that accelerate growth and help underwriters do what they love. Right, let's find out from Greg Fleming, CIO from Everest International, and also Ben Huckel, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Send. The objective here is to provide thought leadership about being enabling new bionic underwriters. So how can we use tech and tools for positive change and to grow your business, understand the practical challenges and how to overcome them. So love audience participations as we go through this. If you'd like to ask a question, please pop your hand up. Make sure it's a really insightful, difficult question, because these guys love those sorts of questions. But first off, Greg Fleming. Greg, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Greg Fleming, CIO for Everest International and Latin America. Slightly clunky title, but to do with the scope of the role. And we are growing our international business, really trying to take our specialist products closer to the customers across the world. Just my remit runs from London all the way through to Latin America, Chile at the moment, but growing already.
Fantastic, Greg. Thank you very much. And Ben.
So Ben Huckel, so I'm the CEO of Send Technology. We have a number of different capabilities, but I guess our chief one is the underwriting workbench, and you'll see lots of literature dotted around today around that. And really you can think of that as a bit of a pane of glass for an underwriter that allows them access to all of the systems that they need to actually perform that art of underwriting. And so there's quite a lot of what we talk about in our literature around the art and science of underwriting. But primarily it's all based around that idea of the pre-bind journey and removing the frictional cost of that in a number of different areas.
Ben, fantastic. Thank you very much. So let's dig into the topic then. What is this Bionic Underwriter thing? So first question, the concept of a Bionic Underwriter, what does it mean today and what can it mean in the future? Greg, with you first.
Well, I'll be a bit of a stuck record for the last session, actually. It's data. To me, it's all data first, data driven. Historically, underwriters have been capturing data or using armies of back office staff to capture and collate that data, and then they really use it as a rearview mirror for the next underwriting decision. What we're trying to do is to put data at the front, so we acquire as much data as we possibly can, curate that data, triangulate it, but then simplify it, because the underwriters can't really make decisions on 1,000 different data points. So what we're trying to do is to simplify that into sort of intelligent information that they can base decisions on, and as we go forward, really try to kind of granularize risks so that we can select within risks that which meets our appetite best. So that's what we're really trying to do, is inform underwriters ahead of time to make the best decisions that they can possibly make, to deploy our capital and underwrite risks that sort of meet customers' needs as well as possible.
Greg, you make it sound very, very simple and straightforward. Let's unpick that in a short while. But Ben, what's your definition of a Bionic Underwriter?
I think if you look at that term bionic,
yeah,
sure. Yeah, sorry. The term bionic, I think. By the way, I agree with everything that Greg said. But I think from my perspective, I look at it as if you actually think what bionic means, really, what you really want to be able to do is accelerate the parts that make the most difference. You provide that accelerator, that bionic capability in the areas that are going to make the most difference. So Greg's highlighted data there, but clearly if you just looked at data as a whole, it's an ever-expanding beast these days, and what you want to be able to do is hone in on the areas that are going to make the most difference for your business, where you get the most bang for your buck, and where you can start to actually see real benefits for your organisation. So for me, that idea of the bionic capability, and we employ this in a number of different areas within our system, is not just solely data. There's lots of different areas as well. It's around where you can provide automation, where you can provide some areas of things like extraction from PDF documents, processing of scheduler values for things like property or marine lines. So there's a raft of different areas there, but I think from a technology company perspective, we have to hone in on the areas that will deliver the best benefit for the organisations that we work with.
Okay, good context, good definition. But commercial lines, very successful. Companies have, good core combined operating ratios, top line, bottom line. Very. Why is this important in future, Greg?
Well, because the risk landscape's changing all of the time. We heard at the start of the morning about...
You're not talking to me, you're talking to them.
About energy changing. So, the energy market is changing, the risks are changing, the losses are getting larger and larger. So we can't stay the same. Our underwriters are innovating all of the time. So the systems need to keep changing to match that. So we need lightweight, simple systems. I mean, I know that sounds a bit of an oddity to go for simple systems, but if they're large and complex, they're brittle and they're resistant to change. We need small systems that are adaptable to meet underwriting needs who are meeting market needs. So that's why we need Bionic. We need that capability in all of our systems and the whole ecosystem from the top to bottom. We've got data scientists joining the business. We didn't even know what data scientist was 10 years ago, and that's because of the volumes of data. But what they're doing is simplifying it so that we make sense of that kind of all this kind of morass of data that we've got. You can do some of it with machines. Machine learning's great, but it is only technical learning. It's only sort of ones and noughts. So you've got to give better data to analysts to give better data and information to underwriters because the market's changing.
Fantastic. Very good reason why. So Ben, to you, ways to leverage automation technology. What are the approaches? What should companies do?
So I think the first thing I'd say is, that changing landscape means that you can't approach the problem in the same way that has been going on in the market for the last 20, 30 years, whatever it is. You need to provide a platform, or you need to have a platform capability that allows you to modernise, to be able to focus on the areas that are going to change within your business, and actually almost accept that as a constant within your business, and embrace it. Because I think the moment you get to the point where you understand that change is the constant, and to be able to be competitive to market change, to be able to bring new products to market, to be able to actually really compete with new entrants as well as existing players, you've got to be able to focus your activities on kind of modernising your estate. And so if you get to the position where you're landlocked by virtue of a platform or some software that you've chosen, and that's quite a common scenario these days, you've gone slightly wrong. So for me that's one of the key areas. And for Send, our underwriting workbench is built on what we call a composable platform, and that allows you to switch all of those components in and out, which gives you that modernisation capability, and we describe that in our literature as built for change.
Built for change sounds good. Change is the new norm, without a doubt. Composable, what does that mean? Yeah,
so I think you could look at that as if you imagine, I suppose, an anecdote, a recipe. You can swap golden syrup for treacle if you wanted, right? And you might decide that treacle's much better for your organisation than golden syrup. And so we just allow that capability, so you can pull in those different components to create the recipe for success for your business.
Interesting. Let's explore that. So how fast are expectations and what underwriters are capable of? How fast are they changing, Greg?
Well, again, echoing what we heard this morning, they're changing quickly, actually. Underwriters get it. We have a sort of view of underwriters as being sort of kind of cast in stone and sort of kind of preferring ledgers over anything else, but they're not. They get it, and they want change faster, frankly, than we're able to deliver to them generally. So that's our challenge, is rising up to that.
So what emerging tools are you finding to be particularly powerful in this space, Ben?
I guess an underwriting workbench is probably the chief one. But in terms of
what does an underwriting workbench mean?
Yeah. So if you imagine most of the organisations that we start to work with, they typically have underwriters that run their underwriting processes off the side of their desk. They key into a number of different systems, probably dual key quite a few times. They track things on spreadsheets, whiteboards. We've seen network drives, you name it. Probably got some fairly extensive manual processes, and almost universally have an assumption that each business line is completely different to all of the other business lines that are actually within the organisation. So the underwriting workbench is all about calming that kind of submission chaos. So it takes business from submission to bind. It promotes automation where available. It allows underwriters to take advantage of data wrangling tools. So we've got a number of different bits of capability within our system, which provide that kind of scientific view of the data, really the bionic bit that we talked about earlier. But it doesn't lose the underwriter art part, so that kind of human in the loop. And really the trick, I think, with the underwriting workbench is providing something that the underwriters actually really want to use. Because I really echo Greg's comment there, that the underwriters are crying out to be able to get the right tools to actually make their jobs easier, because what they really want to be able to do is focus on underwriting, not focus on trying to work out where the business is, what they did last year, why they gave a 20% discount, why John gave a 15% discount and he's gone on holiday. So there's a raft of different areas there, but yeah.
Sounds like you're turning an art form into a bit of more of a science. But anybody that wants to calm the submission chaos, what's not to love there? Greg, question for you: what are some of the challenges as a CIO as the tooling around the underwriting evolves? What are the challenges for you?
Well, shifting from the legacy, we've all got gallons of legacy. Either green screens or even our Windows is pretty legacy now, and there's a lot of it about. So moving away from that to modern technologies is a slow old business, and I think somebody else mentioned it, but our view is to hollow out those, not go in for a legacy retirement program. They're long, they're difficult, they suck money up, and they don't often work, frankly. So our plan is to hollow it out. So we'll put a pane of glass on top. We'll start there, and we'll just hollow out and deprecate features piece by piece. And for me, that's that composable point as well. So if our systems are right, we can deprecate features rather than just kind of retire the whole piece out of the back, because that's a big old job, and it's hard work, and frankly pretty thankless when you get to the end of it. And no underwriter will ever thank you for any of that. So moving at speed is the key thing to support an underwriter. I mean, that's a tool question, actually, David. The thing that jumped to my mind is the people are the best tool we've got. The trick we've got to do is to give them enough technology to have the machines do the dull stuff, the mechanical stuff, so that the people can exercise their grey matter to make the best decisions and make businesses grow. Okay,
you're talking on the assumption that these underwriters are sort of really up for it. They want to change, they want to do things differently, they want to become bionic. In practice, how do you overcome the inherent cultural challenges? Oh, I've been doing this job for 20 years, or I'm not going to change. Those sort of, how do you overcome them?
Well, it's cynicism, isn't it? And I spoke to our underwriting director, I don't know, I'm going to say 4 weeks ago, talking about the program we've got. He said, Greg, you'll have no problem with engagement. The problem you'll have is cynicism, because they've all heard it before. They've had a program like that. It didn't deliver. It sucked up billions of pounds of premium, profit that they had written, and they're tired. So, we've got to go with smaller bites. We have to deliver, and you have to move on. You have to learn. If you have to write stuff down, write it down, deliver the next thing. We can't keep running multi-year, multi-million projects, because they don't work, they don't deliver fast enough, and they don't react.
Fantastic, Greg. Ben, as CEO of an underwriting platform, how are you trying to equip these underwriting leaders?
Well, I guess the first thing to say is we listen to them. Now that might sound like a fairly glib comment, but I've been in the market 13, 14 years, and I've worked at a number of organisations prior to Send where that didn't happen. So listening and working very, very closely with organisations, and specifically the underwriting teams, is paramount to what we view as our recipe for success at Send. I don't think you can really underestimate the power of listening to the people who actually process business on a day-to-day basis, some of the trials, the challenges, some of the ways, the mechanisms that they've had to employ to actually work around the systems that they've been forced to use over time, really is a bit of an eye-opener. And so for me, it's definitely listening to the customers.
Hearing you loud and clear. Ben, thank you. We've got time for one or two questions. Any questions for the panel? No, this is not starting well, is it? We need more questions. Ah, yes, Mandy. I knew it. Mandy.
So workbenches are brilliant, but I think they're really hard personally to deploy across the whole business. So what would your strategy be about a new insurer? Sorry, didn't know that was coming. So what would your strategies be if I was sitting here trying to work with you? Where would you suggest we target? How would you go about talking to an insurer about the plan they should take to take on your workbench?
Great question.
Yeah, so I guess we've hit that on a number of different levels, and I think over time we've got a bit of a recipe for success for in this space. So I think it's important. Our general view is, and quite often, I think I mentioned it earlier, is that there's a bit of a universal view that every business line is different within an organisation, and so we typically start to look at the commonalities between all of the business lines as our focal point. We then start to look at how we can roll our underwriting workbench out across probably as many of those business lines as we can to get benefit out of the system as soon as possible. Because when you actually think about the business that comes into a system or comes into an organisation, some of it is declined, some of it's not tracked, some of it is tracked, but it's tracked in a different way. Trying to pull all of that data out of silos is incredibly powerful. So you actually get a lot of benefit just by implementing a very, very simple version of the workbench. And then actually the way the platform's built means you can then start to expand into the different areas. You can start to build out the integrations into some of the underlying systems. And especially where you've got maybe a big existing legacy estate, you can start to knock off the things that cause you the most problem. And so, for example, we integrate extensively with a number of different PaaS systems. We integrate with things like CRM, Salesforce, document management systems. And really it's a case of trying to pick your battles at the right time for the organisation, because there'll be lots of strategically moving bits within the organisation, and what you want to be able to do is have a platform that says, hey, yeah, I can roll with those punches, and what we'll do is we'll bite off this piece now because that's really, really what's causing us the big headache. And when we get to the next part, hey, I want to take that one. And 3 years later you say, yeah, we changed that document management system to A, well, now it needs to be B. Yep, great, we can do that as well.
Fantastic, Mandy. Great question. Thank you. Very
Can I
comprehensive.
just jump in a sec? So the other thing I'd say is I wouldn't fixate on one global kind of solution. I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. The world's a big place, so implementing multiple solutions isn't necessarily a problem. You need that lightweight kind of composability, flexibility. The data's the critical factor. You need to make sure the data's integrated and is available globally. That's critical. What happens at the front? I'm not personally so concerned whether that's always blue.
Great.
Just one.
John?
John from Norway. A question regarding the underwriting benchmark, because you talked in the beginning of as data as much as possible in front of the underwriter, but some kind of problem raising up is information overload. So what to pick? I guess when building an underwriting benchmark, it probably already is some kind of best practice when it's come to what kind of information based on science, data science, should be put in front of the underwriting, and what kind of other market, customer, risk exposure information you build as part of the benchmark. But additional fitting that organization, which probably has a lot of wishes and practices and so on. So I guess it's going to be a mix between some kind of structural best practice and fitting the customer or the organization, underwriting organization itself. Can you elaborate a bit between how you build that underwriting benchmark?
Great question, John Holton, Norway. Thank you. Quick answer. Time is not our friend, unfortunately, at the moment.
I can take that one. So, I mean, broadly, if you look at some of the data services that are available at the moment, they will throw you back a ton of information. The art is sifting through that, finding what you're interested in as an organisation, and then being able to extract that and present it to the underwriter in a manner that actually means they can use it to make an informed decision. So that's basically the strategy. So we do that in a number of different ways, but it's fair to say that there are some challenges there because no two organisations are the same. And the way that we manage that internally is we have a number of different structures internally which we map that into a standard structure capability, and then we're able to provide those back to the organisations in a sensible manner. But given that business lines operate differently, the way that you need to present data for things like property to marine to cyber, whatever it's going to be, it does change, and that's why it's so key to actually work with the organisations to understand how they want that data presented, so it makes their decisions much more easy to make.
Fantastic. We're going to have to draw us to close, but Greg, Fleming, Ben Huckel, thank you so much for your insights today. I'm sure these guys are hanging around today if you want to ask any other questions, but in the meantime, big round of applause.